Welcome to Saleh Family Speaks.
Hey, I'm Sana.
And I'm Mohammed William.
And we are
the Saleh family.
We are social media influencers, content creators, and we own multiple online businesses. We seem to have a lot to say when it comes to just about anything. We are a mixed culture Muslim couple from Canada, and we're always asked about how our lives intertwine with the world around us.
This podcast is all about learning to live, love, and laugh in a way that may have you rolling on the floor or throwing your phone at the wall. No topic is off the table. Religion, culture, love life, and everything in between. So get ready and grab a big old cup of chai.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing Muslims and holidays. Ready to spill the tea.
Alert.
There's going to be some tea spilled. There's going to be some of you that are going to listen to this and you're going to be furious and your blood is going to boil, and that's okay. Because it needs to be talked about.
Sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah.
And if it hurts, then we need to change and rectify our own selves.
Definitely.
Firstly, we should start off by saying congratulations to us for being consistent and putting out a second episode in as many weeks.
Woo! So proud of us.
Absolutely. So first things first, we always want to make sure that when we're speaking about something that people understand, we're not speaking about it out of ignorance. We're not speaking about it out of our own pocket.
Because we're uneducated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or whatever.
So just because people don't like what they hear, it doesn't mean that the person who's speaking is wrong. And usually if someone dislikes something that someone is speaking about, they dislike it not because they have any valid proofs of their own to back up their own view, but rather they know that person is speaking the truth, but it conflicts with what their heart desires.
But they kind of want to just deny it because that's just not what they believe in, and that's their own thing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's your choice. In Islam, we believe that we have the free will to either be obedient to Allah and His commands, or to do the opposite, and that's fine. And that's between you and God.
Exactly. That's the number one point that we want to raise, and that is that whilst there are many differing views and opinions on many different things within Islam, Allah knows best. And so we will speak the truth that we understand it to be, according to the scholars that we trust, that we know, that we follow, that we're friends with personally, and teachers that we have. So again, if it offends people, sorry, not sorry. But again, we have to always speak truth. And that's basically what we're going to do. So we're going to talk a little bit today about the big C. Big C, Christmas.
Yes. So let's discuss the big C.
Big C. So being as that the big C just passed, we thought we would just kind of have a little discussion upon it.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. Like a lot to unpack. So we as Muslims are forbidden. There is no dispute amongst the scholars of Islam in regards to Muslims celebrating Christmas, guys. That should be point number one.
Not just Christmas. Let me just throw this out there. Not just Christmas, but any holiday that belongs to a different religion or group.
Yeah, and one that is commonly practiced amongst those groups to this day. So again, Christmas, we'll just touch on that one briefly first. Again, no dispute in 1400 years of Islamic scholarship. You won't find any scholar who will say it's permissible for a Muslim to engage in Christmas.
Yeah.
First point, it's not our religion. It's not our holiday. The word Christmas literally translates in Latin to the Mass of Christ. And Mass translates to worship. So it literally, the word Christmas translates to the worshiping of Christ.
Exactly. And the thing is so we posted a few TikToks and a few YouTube shorts regarding this and how, it's that time of year where we're going to see Muslims putting up Christmas trees because we feel very strongly about it and we've never done anything like that. But the amount of Muslims in the comments that say, oh, well, it's not a religious holiday. It's just a tree. I like it up. It makes my house feel warm. And all of these things. Okay. So let's unpack all of that and discuss. So the people that are arguing saying it's actually not religious, because there are a lot of atheists in our comment
Of course.
section and people that are non-religious that will say, well, I celebrate it, and you know, it's not religious. Like, I don't have to be a Christian to celebrate Christmas. So what do you say about that?
Well, I would say that if you go for Hajj and you say, I'm not a Muslim, I just like going for Hajj.
Right?
Well, you're engaging in the religious act of Hajj.
Yeah.
Christmas, yes, we as Muslims, we do not believe that Jesus was born on December 25th. I think many biblical scholars agree that Jesus was not born on December 25th. There is a lot of, you know, whether that's Saturnalia, which is a pagan holiday, which has been intertwined and wrapped up within Christmas. You have so many different things to unpack. The most basic thing is that you have 2 billion Christians around the world, and they celebrate Christmas as a religious holiday. They celebrate Christmas as the birth of Christ.
Yep.
So you have to look at things prospectively and say, well, for us as Muslims, we do not believe that Jesus is God. For 2,
We also do not believe he is the Son of God.
correct. And for 3, that's what this whole thing is about. Forget about, you know, Christmas trees, decorations, Santa, elves, all that sort of
Presents.
stuff. That's what the core essence of Christmas is and has always been about. Now, if you were to say to Christians, oh, Christmas isn't a Christian holiday, that's very insulting. It's very
Yeah.
rude, and it's very
There's a
very
lot of
much of
Christians
an
that would be offended.
uneducated
Yeah.
statement. They say, yes, it's a capitalistic holiday or capitalism holiday. Absolutely.
secular is what they say nowadays.
Yeah, it may be, but it doesn't change the fact that 2 billion people still revere it as a special holy day for their religion.
Yeah.
So we as Muslims are supposed to say, Lakum dinakum waliya din, that to you is your way of life and to us is ours.
Yeah.
We're not to be adopting your way of life and saying it's okay for us as Muslims to do. It doesn't mean we should insult you. It doesn't mean we should slander what you're doing. Absolutely, we're forbidden to do that. But when it comes to us adopting religious practices of other people, that is a big no-no.
So let's dive into the whole Christmas tree thing, because I for one am really shocked and kind of saddened that there are a lot of Muslim influencers that have a lot of young Muslim followers that are on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, and they are clearly celebrating Christmas, you know, putting a Christmas tree up and showing them decorating it, and all of these things. And to me, I'm looking at that and I'm like, how do you not know that that's not something that we do? So let's just like quickly discuss the origins of the tree itself and like what we know about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of dispute about where, how you have differing groups of Christians. I know the Catholics didn't accept the Christmas tree as part of Christmas until the 1980s. But you have other groups of Christians that have had this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. You have references in the Old Testament, which talks about, you know, not bringing trees into your house and decorating them with gold and silver. This is an act of paganism, which is forbidden in the Old Testament. But again, we have to look at things prospectively. We don't ask Christians to give explanations of the Quran. Therefore, Muslims, unless you're a biblical scholar, you have no right to tell people that means Christmas tree. Because when you actually see what the biblical scholars say, they're referring to bringing that into your house and carving idols into that tree and decorating it up and worshiping it.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing today as Muslims. People say, oh, you can't have a picture of a living being on your wall because it's idol worship or something, right? There's a context involved to things that are said that you have to understand. But again, the Christmas tree, the worship of Jesus, Christmas, the tree is a symbol of that religious holiday. You do not have Christmas trees in July. You do not have Christmas trees in September. It is December 25th. That is the whole idea with it. So when you adopt that Christian, again, even if you say, well, it's a pagan thing, then it's still not permissible for Muslims
Because
to
it's
do.
it's the same thing, right? It's the exact same thing, whether it was derived or came from pagan traditions or Christian traditions. Muslims are strictly forbidden from celebrating either.
Yeah.
Or correlating with either.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Or adopting these traditions and trying to say it's okay. That's the biggest problem.
And that's the thing, is these people, these Muslims that are in the comment section that are trying to justify their actions in putting up a tree will say things like, well, it's just a tree.
But
then
my
why
favorite,
aren't you putting it up in the summertime?
Yeah, my favorite is, well, I do it, so it's okay.
Yeah, that
or
makes no
so and so
sense.
does it, so it's okay.
I don't understand where that comes from.
No, Islam is a very rich history of scholarship, and it's based upon factual evidences. We know as Muslims that we have been blessed with two holidays, Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr, and that's it.
That's it.
That's
That's
it.
all we need.
That's literally all we need.
Yeah.
Now, the question will arise then, okay, so Christmas unanimously,
Is a no-no.
it is not allowed for Muslims to celebrate Christmas. If you want to as a Muslim, don't show other people because it shows how ignorant you are to what is the truth of Islam.
Yeah, exactly.
And not
it's
only
confusing.
that, it is sinful. It is a sinful act for you to adopt the religious practices of other people, so much so that we're not allowed to adopt the attire, the clothing of other people in regards to religious garments. Which is why you won't see any imam dressed up like a Catholic priest,
Oh, totally.
right? You won't see.
Or have that collar.
That's what I'm referring
Yeah,
to. Yeah.
yeah.
So anything that's associated with other people's religious practices,
Yeah, you
we
won't
are
see.
forbidden to adopt that into our own.
Mm-hmm.
But people will say, okay, what about Mother's Day? What about Thanksgiving? What about New Year's? What about all of these different things?
Okay, well, one holiday that I would like to discuss is Halloween
Mm-hmm.
because that's again something that so speaking from my experience, I grew up with immigrant parents who didn't know any better, weren't educated on the matter, and saw it as, oh, she gets free candy on this day, so yeah, send her out. And like my parents never used to like dress me up for Halloween. They used to just get me like a witch hat and that was like it, or something, just something to put on my head and just call it a costume. And I used to go trick or treating, and I looked forward to it every year until I was educated on what Halloween actually meant. And, since we've been parents, our kids have never gone trick-or-treating. They know nothing about it. They know that we buy candy in bulk
Yeah, they know it,
in October.
They know it exists because of shows and
But
stuff
that's
like
about
that.
it. But they don't know the origins or
Yeah,
anything.
they also understand that we're Muslim, and that's not something that Muslims do.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
as simple as that. They don't
Simple.
question. They don't care. They just know that we're Muslim. We have
Yeah.
Eid. We have Ramadan. We have this and this. That's not something that we do.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just
so-
there. It's something that other people do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So again, people will say, "Oh, it's just costumes and candy." Yes, but those have roots within paganism.
Yeah.
So the setting out of the jack-o'-lantern is to
With the
ward off
light.
evil spirits. The reason you dress up on that night is so that you're not harassed by the demons or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You give out these
Everything has
candies and
symbol.
things. Yeah, you give out candy to appease these spirits or whatever.
Oh, and one thing that I just want to throw out there, this has nothing to do with religion, but like why for 364 days a year we're teaching our kids don't take candy from strangers, but on Halloween people are okay with kids going up to strangers' houses and asking for candy. I've never, like since becoming a parent, I've never been so flabbergasted with that concept. I'm like, how is that okay? Because I see in the news all the time that candy is being tampered with, and like how are we trusting? How are people trusting?
How would you
kids
trust a stranger to give your child
I just
candy?
don't get it. Like
It's
I
so
would so much
backwards.
rather just go to Walmart or like the superstore and just like pick up a box of candy and give it to my kids.
Yeah,
like
it literally makes no sense
Yeah.
at all whatsoever.
So-
People will say, "Oh, but that's a pagan practice and it's no longer practiced, so therefore it's okay." So
but there are.
some scholars will tell you that that's how you differentiate what is allowed and what isn't allowed, right? Is it something has died off, it's long since been forgotten about, it's not a common practice, it becomes a culture. Culture is not forbidden, cultural practices are not forbidden, obviously.
But it is very much a religious practice
It's
today.
the most, and again, this is coming from these people directly. It is the most significant day of the year for the Church of Satan. It is still practiced upon heavily by pagans,
Yep.
witches, pagans. These people message us directly and tell us about these things
Yeah, I
because
know.
people will say, "Oh, that's not true," and they message like, "No, this is 100%
No,
true.
totally
I am
is
one
true.
of these people,
Yeah.
and this is the most important day for us."
Yeah.
Right.
So it
but
is a
again,
religious
you look at it
thing.
Islamically, right? It's the costumes are usually, again, the scary, evil demons, Satan, all these demonic things. That's what it's about. And does any good come about from Halloween? Well, I can tell you, as someone who celebrated Halloween for all of my teenage years, it never ended with something good.
No.
I can tell you so many different things that happen on Halloween night. Whether that's people getting beat up, people getting jumped,
Houses being egged.
people getting egged, people, back where I'm from, it used to be the fire trucks would come and have to hose down people because it
Wow.
was just these massive gatherings of troublemakers.
It's a thing.
It is.
It is a thing. People like to cause mischief on Halloween, and yet people are still sending their kids out for trick-or-treating. And it's like, why are we doing this to our kids?
Getting shook down for their candy by bullies.
Yeah.
People are wearing masks. They can't identify. They don't know who's who.
And that's not to say that we don't let our kids dress up, because we actually have an entire bin of dress up clothes. Like
Yeah.
we have Moana outfits and Frozen outfits and princess dresses, and we let our kids dress up any time of year. Like if they want to be a princess today, sure, go put on a princess dress, and like we're fine with that. But when it comes to this like ghoulish, like scary kind of just like the costumes that are freaky, we would never adopt that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so ironic. It's like, when you think about Islam is about purity. It's about cleanliness. It's about spiritual connection with God. Why would, like, what semblance of God do you have on Halloween?
I don't see any.
It's the furthest thing. People maybe, I dressed up
Totally.
as an angel. Well, okay, but you're going as an angel. You're trick or treating with Freddy Krueger, Drake, Jason, and Satan.
Oh
like,
man. Oh man.
So I mean,
It's scary.
yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
definitely. You may find some isolated view or opinion that says, oh, you can do that, but the overwhelming majority of people with common sense would say, no, this isn't allowed because
Yeah.
it's associated with all of this negativity.
Yeah.
And then you move on to what about certain things that are individual celebrations, because Halloween is not an individual
No,
celebration.
it's a
Christmas
religious thing.
is not an individual. It's the culture and society
Definitely.
around you, right?
An individual thing would be like celebrating your graduation.
Yeah, a birthday, an anniversary.
birthday.
So you have to look at it and say, well, but birthdays have, pagan roots.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go back far enough, most people were all pagans.
Yeah.
Right? Before the enlightenment of God came about, we were all pagans.
Mm-hmm.
Where we worshipped sticks and stones and the world around us, so on and so forth. And that, the seasons is another big thing, right? Which is why you have Halloween being the death of the season. You have Easter being the fertility of the spring and the new crop season. So these things are all correlated. They're all mixed up in there. But a birthday, right? You're born on a day. Are you allowed to celebrate that day? People will say, no, you can't because it's associated with paganism. So we have to look much deeper than that. So, okay, where do you see this anywhere practiced by anybody, that a birthday is some negative thing? Well, it's not.
Or
Because-
religious thing. However, there might be elements to it that I have heard of that Muslim scholars have discussed, like blowing out candles. There might be some religious significance to that. But when it comes to celebrating your day, enjoying your day, giving presents to each other,
Being thankful to God that you're alive for another
yeah,
year.
like there's no religious significance, and everybody does it on their own accord. Like some people like to have friends over, some don't. Some people like to do gifts, some people don't. Some people like to do dinner, some people don't. Like it's not a religious thing.
And it doesn't affect the people around you.
Yes.
If you're a Muslim and you're promoting Halloween, which we believe to be a sinful thing for you to do, you're affecting all the people around you. right?
Definitely.
Having Christmas trees and
Influencing,
being a
you're
social media
influencing.
influencer, you're promoting something that is sinful to people who may not know better, right? But a birthday, you're doing your thing with your family.
It's literally harmless.
So long as it is free, and again, here's the correlation: is that if it's free of any type of sin, you're not getting drunk on your birthday. You're not
Obviously.
you're not doing these things that are not allowed Islamically.
Yeah.
Then there is no issue with it, right? And even then, something like blowing out of the candles. This is a stretch because the scholars disagree and they say that this has nothing to do with some type of pagan practice. Where? Show me. They can't. They say, 5,000 years ago. Okay, if it's 5,000 years ago and it doesn't exist and there's no evidence of it, being something that is taking place today, then the scholars, again, they disagree. They say that this is something that is you can do. So then you look at the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We know that the aqiqah and we know that the shaving of the baby's head, these are practices from the pagan Arabs of Arabia that were adopted because there's no religious significance to it whatsoever. It is a
It's
culture.
just like a cultural thing.
Exactly. But so that was adopted into from that paganistic society, because there's no harm in it. Feeding people is something that is good. It's encouraged in Islam. So you tie that together with the birth of a baby and it becomes a tradition.
So like, as for us, we personally don't do the candle thing anyway. We think it's kind of gross to have wax like running down into the cake. One thing that we do is sparklers. We get our kids sparklers and it's a lot more fun, and just stick that on your cake and you're good to go. Cake is something we always end up doing for birthdays, as well as presents and decorations and things like that.
Yeah. So again, guys, Islam is about balance. Islam is about, it's literally a middle religion. It's supposed to be a path in which you're not extreme on either side. Extreme liberal, Christmas trees in your videos on TikTok. Extreme conservative, everything is haram and you cannot celebrate any type of anything. No birthdays, no anniversaries, no. Islam is the middle ground. If you have some evidence to prohibit something, again, and I'm not talking about single chain narration hadith, I'm talking about from fiqh, because fiqh is where Islamic rulings come from, not books of hadith. Again, that's a topic for a whole other day. But Allah says that I have perfected your religion and I have chosen Islam as your way of life. So we don't need to add in these things when it comes to additional acts of worship, when it comes to imitating non-Muslims in these things. It's not permissible. So you have to find the balance, that if your religion is true and you believe it to be the truth and you love your religion, then you wouldn't need to adopt these practices. You would be completely confident in what you have and not have to do these things to appease anyone else except God.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to like other holidays, like Easter, for instance, again, another religious holiday that we don't partake in, and Hanukkah, for instance, or Diwali, or, all of those holidays that belong to a specific group of people, those are things that we're not going to partake in. But when it comes to maybe New Year's, for instance, New Year's doesn't have any religious significance to it. And like, everybody celebrates New Year's differently anyway. Like, sometimes we just sit and just like have a bowl of popcorn and watch Netflix, and like that's our New Year's.
and in terms of like the Persian New Year, for example, Nowruz,
or Chinese New Year.
No, the Persian New Year, and specifically, this was celebrated during the time of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And there's narrations where Ali and Umar bin Khattab, may Allah be pleased with them, were brought sweets by the Persians on this day, and they took them and they ate them while these people were doing their thing.
Totally.
Right? They didn't say, oh, this is something.
Yeah.
Right? So the changing of a calendar, our Muslims, we may not have a New Year's celebration, but it is a significant thing when the lunar calendar changes, becomes another year, right? With the dates that are specific. For the day of Arafah is a specific, right? With all of these different days. So again, so long as what you're doing is free of any sin, is free of anything un-Islamic, and is free of anything that would pull you away from Islam, then the scholars, most agree that these things are permissible. But stay away from the things that are clearly forbidden. And if something is doubtful, stay away from it. What might be doubtful for you may not be for me, depending on our understandings. Don't criticize other people, but educate other people in a manner that is best. And at the end of the day, God is indeed the judge, but we have a responsibility of encouraging others towards goodness and forbidding what is wrong.
Exactly. And I think that's one reason why we wanted to do this podcast episode in particular, and just kind of go into detail a little bit more about it, because we do have a lot of young followers, and we do see these young followers also following other people that are doing these things openly, and just wanted to kind of shed some light on what that means and what that looks like.
Yeah, and that's just the thing, right? Like, if you're a Muslim and you're young, be proud to be a Muslim. You don't need to try to change the religion to fit in with other people.
Yeah,
be proud of who you are, and people will respect you because of it. But if you claim to be a Muslim and you're so wishy-washy, you're just doing everything to appease everyone, no one's going to respect you for it.
Totally.
So that's our advice. Take it or leave it, guys. We are off and to film another podcast just to make sure that we're here for next week.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in our next one.
Take care, and bye for now.
Bye.